Good evening, everyone. It is so nice to see all of you. My name is Cecilia Lay. I'm a host and producer with KQED. Thank you. This is the fourth Hella Asian and the second time that KQED has produced this event with the San Francisco Bay Area chapter of the Asian American Journalists Association. The last time was in 2022 when I hosted it as former board president, so I know firsthand that this is going to be a very special evening for all of us. For those of you joining us for the first time, KQED is Northern California's PBS and NPR member station. KQED Live is our new multi-platform events program that produces screenings, talks, performances, and food tastings that align with KQED's mission to inform, inspire, and involve. You can learn more at kqed.org/live. And a very quick show of hands, are there any KQED members in the audience? If so, raise your hand. Yay, there's so many of you, great. Thank you so much for supporting what we do. You really make what we do possible. And if you are not a member, I really encourage you to consider it. There is so much need for it, especially right now in this moment. There are lots of great benefits, including early access to tickets to events like these. You can find out more at kqed.org/donate. Finally, I really want to thank our season sponsors that make KQED Live possible, Comcast Business, Genentech, and the San Francisco Symphony. We're really grateful to you for your support of our mission of being civically and culturally engaged in the Bay Area. Comcast Business also powered the pre-show mobile quiz with trivia about AAPI journalists. We've picked one of the top scorers at random to win a giveaway of a KQED Live tote bag, because we all need another tote bag, and KQED's Bay Curious book. That lucky winner is Lydia Orendane. Are you in the audience? If you are, you're the lucky winner. See us after the show. But I love your excitement for the tote bag. See us after the show for your prize. And let me just get out of the way now because I want to get the show started. I'm really excited to introduce you to your host for the evening. She might be a familiar face to some of you. Jana Katsuyama is an Emmy Award-winning reporter for KTVU and is the current president of the San Francisco Bay Area chapter of the Asian American Journalists Association. Everyone, please welcome Jana.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. We are thrilled to be back here for another Hella Asian. It's so great to be partnering with KQED Live, the team backstage up there. We really appreciate you for being part of this. And you know, one of the things that is really thrilling is this is a really unique opportunity for us to be able to share some Asian American Pacific Islander stories. We have 6 storytellers tonight for you. And our theme is Hella Asian, and this year we decided on Bridging the Bay. And this is something which we hope will be an opportunity for you to hear these AAPI stories and the voices and really go on a journey. We want you to be able to connect with the ideas, the hearts and the dreams, the history and the culture, and also, yes, the humor of our storytellers. They are our human bridges. They are connecting us to different places, different perspectives. And we have one of our AAJ chapter's founding members. We have a Hawaiian musician, a South Asian stand-up comic, a Harvard-educated former NPR host, a Japanese-American photographer, and a familiar face to many of you here at KQED, the KQED food editor. And you know, tonight, it really is, that's right, hands up for KQED. Tonight is also very special for our AAJA San Francisco Bay Area chapter because this is the 40th anniversary year of our founding. Can we get a little applause for that? We are so excited about this because, you know, back in 1985, when this chapter was founded, it was actually also an historic bridge. It extended what started down in Los Angeles with the very founding chapter and then moved it up here to Northern California and then beyond into the nation and also internationally. So now I am proud to say AAJA has 20 chapters across the nation as well as in Asia. And you know, this is something which it's very important because the founders were really working to try and create diversity of journalists within the newsroom, but also AAPI voices in the communities and in our news coverage that we would see on television or in the newspapers. And now if you look at the broadcasts and the bylines, you can see this kind of diversity in the representation. And that was their dream. But even as we stand here, 40 years later, we can still see that there is a need for keeping those doors open for young journalists, for supporting our AAPI journalists who are here when we are under attack, both for our profession and also just as people. And so we deeply thank all of you for being here to support that cause. We don't take it for granted. Let me tell you, we really, really appreciate it. Yes, thank you. We also want to thank our partners and sponsors who help make all of this possible. We're grateful for all the wonderful AAPI food and drink vendors you see up there who kind of helped to make everything come across Oaks Deli in Oakland, Norio Wines and Matchpoint Brewing. Thanks all to them. And also Bake Some has a couple little treats that we're going to have outside later for our post-show party. So we want to thank them. We also want to thank Chef Yuji Ishikata, who helped to coordinate the food. So can we get a little round of applause for all of our food vendors? And then we also want to thank our major sponsors tonight, Comcast, Xfinity, and Comcast Business, because they have been supporters of Hella Asian from the very beginning. This is their 4th year with us. We are so very grateful. And when they started back in 2018, they decided that they wanted to give us their support. We're also glad to have with us tonight some of the local community leaders that they brought. And Kitty, is Kitty here? No, wasn't able to make it, but she was one of the essay winners that you saw up on the screen. So again, they are really trying to connect young people with this storytelling, and that is so very important. So thank you to our Comcast sponsors for all of that and the faith that you have in us. We really appreciate it. So, with no further ado, we want to get started on this Hella Asian journey. And I am delighted to introduce our first person who I usually am doing emceeing with, but you may know him. David Louie is one of the founding members of our AAJA San Francisco Bay Area chapter. He also reported more than 50 years at ABC 7 KGO TV. Yes? And you know, as journalists, and David knows this, we are storytellers and we report on history as it's happening, and no one has reported on more history, I think, in the Bay Area or nationally than David. And tonight, I'm just so delighted that David is going to be here to tell his own story. So David Louie, thank you so much.
Well, good evening, everyone. And good evening. Oh, what a lively crowd here tonight. This is exciting. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Jana, for that nice introduction. Thank you for Cecilia and to KQED for having us tonight. You know, there was a time when journalists didn't have AAJA. We didn't have affirmative action, nor did we have any allies who really were standing by to try to get us in the door at newsrooms around the country. So that's what I want to share with you tonight. This is what I did on TV for 50 years. Now, it seems commonplace today to see Asian Americans on TV, anchoring, reporting, covering sports, doing the weather, and we have many more working behind the scenes doing important jobs such as producing and writing and photography and even management as well. But it wasn't always that way. As diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI initiatives are in the process of being erased with their future uncertain. We want you to know, we know how and why advocacy, community activism, and what I like to call the kindness of others is so very important and can make a big difference. Let's turn the clock back, way back, to the mid-1950s when TV was in its infancy. TV was black and white, literally and figuratively. Anyone of color, predictably, was cast in stereotyped roles. Asians played houseboys, cooks, or sidekicks. Blacks appeared as lazy or as inept characters. However, there were groundbreaking efforts to change that in the Midwest, where few Asians lived. Now here I am at age 8. Can you believe that? I appeared weekly on a public affairs program in Cleveland called TV Sunday School. Yes, that's me all dressed up, getting ready to go on camera. And I did this for 8 years, every Sunday morning on live television, starting in 1955. I was a mere kid at age 5 in those years. The program's creator, producer, and host was Ethel Brewer. She embraced diversity in media at a sensitive time in race relations. It was the period after World War II and the Korean War. Petition drives used to block the sale of homes to Asians, including my own family. Aunt Ethel, as we like to call her, was an ally who saw an opportunity to change what we saw on TV. She invited Japanese American, Chinese American, and Black children to be on TV. Even in this black and white film of the program, you see the positive kaleidoscope of color that she created for her viewing audience, a generation growing up in a segregated society predating the civil rights movement. This was an opportunity for us to break down walls and to learn from each other. Now, I never thought of Aunt Ethel being an activist, but she was. An anachronism in the 1950s when most moms didn't work outside the home. She was a TV producer and radio talk show host. She also lobbied a local movie theater to show films that were age appropriate for kids on Saturday afternoons.
I think we'll go over here to meet the boys and girls. Marie, why don't you just come with me? I'm so glad that you're wearing your little Japanese dress and that you have the little bells on.
As you can see, the program didn't perpetuate stereotypes as other shows did in the 50s and 60s. There's me in the video right there. We were an ensemble of children of different races. Yoneko Sato, who you see here, was the wife of a Japanese-American minister. She appeared frequently on TV Sunday School to speak about Japanese culture. Mrs. Sato and her husband were among more than 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent and immigrants who had been sent by the U.S. government to World War II concentration camps. They went to Gila River in Arizona. After the war, she focused on advancing inclusion and diversity through her faith, social circles, and TV. And Ethel Brewer's similar vision also had an impact on me. It kindled an interest in a media career, and when we had no minority models and no mentors. As a young teenager, I developed my own network of mentors by pestering TV station managers with lengthy, single-space, typewritten, no computers in those days, typewritten letters seeking their advice and insights about the industry. Art Watson was my first mentor. He was general manager of the NBC station in Cleveland. He later became president of NBC Sports. Watson not only answered my letters, but he also gave me a big break by backing me for the NBC News reporter trainee intern program. I was just 18, fresh out of high school, and the youngest of 4 selected that summer. The others were white college-age juniors and seniors. That's a story about us from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. That summer, the case for diversity became clear to me when I was assigned to cover an inter-city riot, one of a string of disturbances that broke out in the 60s, fueled by conflicts between blacks and the police. Cleveland's mayor, Carl Stokes, banned white officers and white reporters from the civil disturbance area to help ease the tension. Here I was, just out of high school, arriving at a police checkpoint, accompanied by a black reporter and a black camera crew. The officer manning that checkpoint was absolutely flummoxed. He didn't know what to do, so he ran it up the chain of command. Eventually, the decision came down to let me in. It truly was an aha moment that newsrooms were no longer monochromatic. Then at age 19, another breakthrough, thanks to 2 other mentors who paved the way for me to land a job as a TV news writer at NBC News Chicago. Somehow, I managed to work 40 hours a week and attend classes at Northwestern. While the door had opened for me here in the Bay Area, a fledgling civil rights group, Chinese for Affirmative Action, which still exists today, was focused on employment discrimination in the construction trades. Its early leaders, Henry Durr, Kathy Fong, Jermaine Wong, Ling Chi Wang, and others, soon widened their focus to include Bay Area media. Until 1970, there were no Asian Americans working on air in mainstream local radio or TV newsrooms. Not until Christopher Chow, seen here on the right, was hired at KPIX. I was the area's second Chinese American TV reporter when I joined KGO TV in 1972 after college. CAA complained that a closed-door policy persisted in many news operations, including the region's 3 major newspapers. In a 1970 press release, CAA's leaders put it bluntly, quote, "News coverage of the Chinese community has been largely indifferent, erroneous, hostile, misleading, or inadequate. Our community, in short, has been shut out and left with no access to the mass media," end quote. Pressing for access led to a gradual change in the makeup of newsrooms and the people who were shaping content. But there was also a one-and-done mentality that diversity had been achieved by a token hire. There also was evidence of insensitivity within the ranks of veteran journalists towards us newsroom newbies. Popular Chronicle columnist Herb Cain was an example of that when he described me as an inscrutable Oriental in place of using my name. AAPI colleagues in newsrooms across the city signed a petition calling out Cain. It was an important step because even the media need to be held accountable. Enter AAJA, the Asian American Journalists Association. Reporters Lisa Chung and Ed Iwata hosted a gathering one Sunday afternoon on Potrero Hill 40 years ago. A group of first-gen hires, or pioneers, if you will, pictured here from a reunion just 5 years ago, formed the Bay Area chapter of AAJA. While we worked in competing news operations, we had a long-standing camaraderie based on friendship, peer support, and a desire to encourage more Asian Americans to enter the field. Altogether, my journey underscores how unity and allyship mattered then, and it really matters today, with DEI initiatives under fire. The heavy lifting is shifting again to the kindness of others. A mentor, a colleague, or a stranger can make a difference. In that spirit, it is incumbent upon all of us to be change agents, to enable others to realize their potential and to attain their goals. So we ask that you be that person, like the ones in my past, who stepped up and extended kindness to others. Truly, the future of journalism is counting on each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
And I can personally attest that David Louie is one of the kindest, nicest people you will ever meet in journalism or out. So, David, thank you so much for that wonderful, wonderful story. We appreciate you. Well, next, we're going to have a special musical storytelling. And as more people step forward to tell their stories, they tell them about themselves, about their families and communities. It helps to fill out the picture. It makes our histories more complete, makes our history more inclusive, more accurate, more truthful. And it also, I believe, makes our history more beautiful because it shows the rich diversity and the color and the amazing span of our collective humanity. Our next storyteller is J.D. Puli, a Hawaiian musician, and tonight he's going to be sharing a story which many of you probably haven't heard about a very interesting connection between Hawaii and San Francisco. So we have J.D. here, and many of you know music and storytelling often go hand in hand. So everyone, J.D. Puli.
Aloha. My name is J.D. Puli. I am a native Hawaiian residing here in Fremont. I first came here to play football while attending Menlo College in the peninsula. I had no intention of living here once I completed my schooling, but fast forward 20 years, I'm still here. With the help of some of Hawaii's most prestigious and influential dignitaries who have paved the path through ocean currents from Hawaii to San Francisco, I am able to practice my culture each day while I'm living in the Bay. When introducing myself, I often hear comments like, "Why leave Hawaii?" or "What made you move from here?" my home in Waimanalo on the island of Oahu. The truth is, Polynesians, Hawaiians more specifically, have a deep connection here in the Bay Area. In the 1870s to the early 1900s, a royalty frequented the area and documented all of their accounts of the bay. Even in the 20th and 21st century, many of Hawaii's most accomplished and well-known musicians were lived here in the Bay Area, while fine-tuning their musical talents and weaving Hawaiian music with Bay Area musical influences. Documentation from our monarchs of how accommodating and hospitable the people and places of the Bay Area was an indication to my people, the Hawaiians, that this was a great place to be. The following story of Hawaii's most devout monarch, King David La'amea Kalakaua, is one of the examples of the great history that Hawaiians have in the San Francisco Bay Area. But before we get into the love story from her queen, Queen Kapi'olani, to King David Kalakaua, I'd like to highlight some of King David Kalakaua's accomplishments. In February of 1874, he was picked the 7th king of Hawaii. In 1881, he introduced Hawaii to the world and brought the world's innovations from home, back to Hawaii. In doing so, he became the first monarch ever in history to circumnavigate the world at sea on a 285-day journey. The cornerstone of Iolani Palace, the only royal residence in the U.S. today, was laid on December 31st in 1879, with its completion in 1882. In 1887, after King David met with Thomas Edison, the Iolani Palace had electric lighting even before the White House did. Now for the love story. In 1890, King Kalakaua set a sail aboard the USS Charleston headed for San Francisco, California. While he was on his travels, his wife, Queen Kapi'olani, wrote him a song, Kap'ipolei Manu, telling of a story that took place through the eyes of Hawaiian royalty. It says, I, Kapi'olani, have a feeling of love for my beloved bird, a metaphor comparing King Kalakaua to a bird who traverses often. Royalty often wore capes made from feathers of these unique, now endangered birds, taking thousands of feathers to create beautiful capes. These capes have become a well-known symbol of ali'i, or royalty, in Hawaii. Hanalei on the island of Kauai, a place in which she once called home. Mount Waialeale, known as the wettest place on earth, the queen compares her tears to that of rains of Kauai. The heavy rains are likened unto the tears she has because she misses her husband, leaving her numb, cold, lonely, and empty without him. Ke ala o ka hala as our queen speaks of the beautiful sea, the scent of holly tree in the wind, and the sweet smell of the rose flower, the thoughts of her king. In Hawaiian poetry, physical attributes of the characteristics of a loved one is also compared to our aina or our land. Aina kapua naya no kalani helelo hone ana I kamanao ea he nau e kukino ko hiki ana maia haoli kumana. My recurring thoughts give me the urge to go and travel with my king, the queen writes. Yearning to partake in his travels, the thoughts of you returning home will only be one of which of joy, she recounts. Haina kapua naya no kalani helelo. Let the story be told of the great one who travels and continues to travel. On January 29, 1981, from the lighthouse of Leahi, known as Diamond Head, a boat could be seen. Kalakaua was returning home to his beloved wife. In preparation for his return, the queen sent out invitations to the kingdom and planned a great ball at the Iolani Palace. As the boat approached closer to the harbor, it was said that the black bunting and flags flying at half-mast marked the end of a monarch. Aboard the boat was the body of King Kalakaua. You can imagine the immense sorrow his widow must have felt that her beloved husband was not able to greet her upon his arrival home to Hawaii. On January 20th, 1891, 9 days prior to the arrival of the USS Charleston back in Hawaii, the king took his last breath here in his room at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco. Before Kalakaua's death, he gifted the Palace Hotel with 2 thrones that are still there in the lobby today. The cause of his death was kidney failure. He died not hearing the haunting love song that his wife, Queen Kapi'olani, composed. A love song for her chief, who went and never returned, with the song once again entitled Ka'ipo Lei Manu. As a Hawaiian musician in the Bay Area, I am blessed to be able to have a platform to share, educate, and delve into stories of Hawaii. Stories that make you wonder or say, oh, I didn't know that about Hawaii. Or, wow, Hawaiian poetry is so creative. There are so many transplants of Hawaii people here in the Bay Area and the West Coast. It's pretty unreal. Music as a whole is already a great blessing, an incredible gift, and it's took me on a great journey so far. But to have cultural significance behind it gives me so much more honor, pride, and immense joy. It also gives me great honor to educate the public about the legacy of the last king of the Hawaiian monarchy. His sister, Queen Liliuokalani, succeeded him, becoming the only queen regnant in the Hawaiian kingdom. But on January 17, 1893, her reign came to an end with an illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom by a coup of businessmen backed by the US government. A world traveler, seeker of knowledge with class, determination, and style, our king, the Renaissance man, King David Kalakaua. Mahalo.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Wow. What a beautiful story and such beautiful music. We are so blessed to have J.D. Puli, everyone. Yes? Thank you so much. Mahalo. Well, often in life, we are put into checkboxes. And as society or other people try to define who we are as individuals. And it could be our families, it could be schools, community, country, or our culture. Well, our next hella Asian performer is someone who I think of as a person who likes to color outside the lines of the checkboxes and challenge those checkboxes. She is a writer, she is an actor, and she is a comedian. And I now present to you Alicia Dillon.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here, you guys. Wow. As soon as I heard I was doing this show, I started binge watching The Newsroom to figure out how you people think. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm single, which is redundant. It's a lot of that going around, honestly. I'm sure some of you know dating in the Bay Area can be pretty rough, but it's actually not worse than when I was in a relationship. My last relationship, it was a long-distance relationship. Is anybody else here delusional? Couple of you? Yeah, it was tough, you guys. But I'm an optimist, right? Which is the woke way of saying I'm mentally ill. It was tough, you guys. It was really tough. Did I miss sex? Yes. Yeah. Did I come way more when he wasn't in town? Also, yes. The girls usually like that one more than the guys. Guys are like, shut up. Where is it? You know? My mental health has been kind of rough lately. Definitely got the winter blues. Is anybody else going through it a little bit? Some of you. I don't know why I'm asking about mental health in a room full of Asians. You guys are like, what's that? I'm trying to be proactive about my mental health, though. I've been going to the gym a lot. It's helping. I like to go to the gym at night when it turns into a club, right? I put on my little gym fit. I go see my gym crush. But my gym crush changes a lot, though, because I'll think a guy's really cute. And the next time I go to the gym, I'll see him on the elliptical. And it's like, well, that's over. You know? Impossible to look good on the elliptical. Just gives mentally challenged gazelle, ew. Okay. You ever made eye contact with someone on there? I'll never be the same. Oh my goodness. It has been a weird time, I'll admit that. I almost got roofied the other day. Yeah, hard pivot, you guys. It was super scary, you know? I looked at the drink fizzing, and I looked at the guy who bought it for me, and I was like, you don't have to do all that. I was gonna, you know? I don't know, I think best case scenario for the guy in that situation is just hoping that the girl lies there unconscious while he, right? And I was gonna. So I ended up just like pouring the drink into my water bottle, and I'm gonna save it for a bad show. Zero waste, Asian culture, you guys. Oh man, relax, you guys. HR is not here, okay? It's all right. I realized recently that I was born to be a hater. Some of you maybe as well, yeah. I do a lot of roast battles. Do you guys know what that is? Yeah? Basically, two comedians come up and they just roast each other into oblivion. It's a lot of fun. We did a tournament down at Cobb's for San Francisco's championship. I won. Oh, thank you. Yay. I'll be honest, my life has not changed at all, okay? The only thing that's different is I'm just like a deeply mean person at my core. Everyone gets it, friends, family, you know. My brother's beard was growing in a little sideways. I called him Infidel Castro. He didn't deserve that, you know. He was ready for me, though. He looked me up and down and was like, oh, okay. And why do you look like you're going to go audition for the Real Housewives of Hamas? It's like, oh, my God. I don't know. Dress for the job you want? No. Sorry, cave wives. I didn't mean to call it a house. It's a little politically dicey. You guys are fun. That was a joke, too. No, it's really fun to be here. I'm having a good time. Things have been kind of interesting. I've been studying real estate marketing because comedy is going great, okay? I've also been swiping on the dating apps quite a bit. Anybody else on there? Some of you are telling the truth. Okay, that's fine. It's okay. It's not the most exciting thing to admit. I can say I'm doing research if I'm on there, right? If you're on it, you're a loser. So I get it. I do think things would go better for everyone if guys had to like get a girl to approve their profile before they posted it, right? Everyone would get more matches. Guys always post selfies that show all of their chins or like spelling errors. They're always holding a fish really proudly. I don't know what that's about. The fish are usually accompanied by white men, but you knew that. I do feel like there's a lot of overlap with the language on housing listings and the language on dating apps. It's all marketing and branding, right? For example, if I'm trying to sell a house that's small, I don't call it small, I call it quaint or charming, right? If it's haunted, I just say it has character. And it's the same for dating apps. If you see a guy call himself open-minded, he's in an open relationship, right? The girl may or may not know, right? If you see a girl call herself adventurous, she has HPV. Don't ask me how I know that one. No, I'm just kidding. Or if you see a guy call himself down to earth, it means he's either 5'3" or homeless, okay? I don't make the rules, you guys. I just observe. I see those fish, though, so often that I finally Googled why guys post fish on their profile. And I learned that they post fish to show that they can provide for women. Is that not the dumbest thing you've ever heard? We're in the Bay Area. Half of us are vegan, you know? Shove those fish right up. I do get some pretty crazy openers, though, on Tinder and Bumble. Do you guys want to hear a couple? Sure. Yeah? Okay, good, because you're gonna. So I'm glad you're on board. Okay. Here's one from John. It says, "You're making me hard." No hi, no hello, how are you? Just, ugh. This one says, "You ever been with a black guy before?" Side-eye emoji. Which is weird, because he's Asian. So, I don't know what he's proposing, you guys, but I'm in. No, okay, I'm just kidding. Oh my God. I did get teased a lot growing up for being a coconut. You guys all heard that term before, yeah? Means I'm brown on the outside with a white guy inside me. Exactly. It's my dad's favorite joke. It's been a tough time for my family, actually. I ended up moving back in with my parents recently because my dad's really sick and I am such a good daughter, okay? Also, I got laid off, but it's unrelated, right? It's interesting being back home. My parents are a lot older and, you know, there's a lot of aches and pains that come with age, no matter where they are. Like, I can hear them before I see them. They're, like, in pain. And it makes me wonder, you know, whatever happened to suffering in silence? Remember that? I'm just kidding. I love them. We have fun. I really enjoy being a stay-at-home daughter. It has been tough for my dad, though. I honestly feel bad for him because he's a very traditional Indian man, and I feel like he was dealt a bad deck of cards. You know, his kids are crazy. I do this, you know? But he's been trying his best to adapt. You know, he actually called my sister yesterday, and he told her that he's okay with her being a lesbian, which is just an assumption he made. Because she's 33 and unmarried, you know? But it was a really big deal for him, and we were really proud of him for saying that, and we just don't have the heart to tell him that she's actually dating a black guy. That'll be the end of Dad, okay? People really get uncomfortable when I say that, but it's the truth, okay? I know white people are taking a break from racism or whatever, but Asian people aren't. Maybe next decade, you guys. We'll see what happens. It's been pretty crazy. I've been reading a lot of self-help books. Is anybody else here like pretending to change and grow? Yeah? It's my favorite thing to do because I can waste like 2 hours reading and still feel like it was a great use of my time, right? The last book I read, it actually taught me that procrastination is just a symptom of perfectionism. Yeah. I haven't written a joke in 3 months because I'm perfect. I was excited to hear that, honestly. As I mentioned, I definitely had a bit of an interracial phase. Some of you are still in yours. No, I'm just kidding. Some people can make interracial relationships work, okay? I couldn't. My last relationship, my ex-boyfriend was white, right? And his ex-girlfriend was even whiter than him, okay? I'm talking blonde hair, blue-eyed, Aryan princess, if you will, okay? And when she found out that he started dating an Indian girl, she turned into a full-on Nazi, you guys. It was crazy. She called him up. She was like, I can't believe you're dating an Indian girl. I bet she smells like curry. Which I was like, you better call that bee back, all right? And you better tell her that I taste like curry too, okay? Sorry, salt and pepper, the spice has arrived. All right. You guys have been so much fun. That's my time. Thank you very much. I've been Alicia Dillon.
Alicia Dillon, everyone. Whew. All right. Whew. Okay. Well, we've been talking tonight about bridging the Bay. And, you know, each one of us has the power to be a bridge, helping to connect people within our families, helping to connect friends, helping to connect with strangers or with new places. That can also, though, take its toll. And it's how we respond to that journey into the unknown place that often speaks volumes about who we are. Emil Guillermo has had a very pioneering type of journey in his life. A former host of NPR's All Things Considered, who has also worked in print, let me get this right, TV, podcasting, the web, and as a columnist. He is also a longtime AJA member. And tonight he's going to let loose with a little bit of his hella Asian humor and also tap into the many ways that he's learned to be a bridge, both with his dad and his daughter. Emil Guillermo.
Thank you. My name's Emil. It's short for Emiliano, or maybe Emiliano is long for Emil. I discovered this word, amok. Amok, it's a Filipino word in the English dictionary, and it means to be thrust into a murderous frenzy. I like that word. That's a good word. That's a good word. In a nice way, in a nice way. And I thought I'd keep that word around in case I was tired of being silent and I was ready to let it out so I could be thrust into a murderous frenzy in print. It was a perfect name for a column. But it was back in 1983, I met a guy named Spalding Gray, a monologist. He did Swimming to Cambodia. And I was interviewing him. I was at the time in the Entertainment Reporter, Channel 4, KRON, when it was good. And I asked him, I said, how is it that a white guy can talk neurotically about his life for entertainment purposes, and could an Asian American do that? And he said, sure, Emil, I call it poetic journalism. And so I said, yes, and I know the right word for my column and my monologues. I'm going to call them amok, Emil amok. I started writing that column in 1993 in Asian Week. I've been writing a column weekly on Asian American life for the last 30 years. And in 2017, actually, I started doing the monologues live throughout the country. And I'm going to do an amok monologue that I'm going to take to Canada this year. I hope, they don't shoot me. I'm an American, but I'm going to do it there. And it was part of a monologue called Emil Amok, Lost NPR host, wildly Filipino, vegan, trans dad. And I'm adapting it for Emil Amok 69, which I will be doing in Canada. And so this is the legacy of affirmative action. I'm about to unwrap the bandages from my daughter's body. We're in the living room of my home. My wife, my daughter, were there. But the story doesn't begin there. The first reveal was 50 years earlier. I'm 17. I grew up in San Francisco. I lived on 17th Street, and then we went uptown to the Richmond, to the avenues, 33rd Avenue, 33rd and Clement, and we're there at the Breakfast Nook, and you know the kind of flats there, the Breakfast Nook, the mail is there, my father's there. I'm a Harvard or a Lowell senior. I applied to go to Harvard, and there's this big honking letter from Harvard in the mail, and we're looking at it, my dad and I rip it open. I said, Dad, they let me in. And my dad says, oh, don't you think it's time to go to San Francisco State now, sonny boy? Oh, no, Dad, don't you see it? Don't you get it? You came to America in 1928. You were a colonized Filipino, colonized, that's slavery 2.0 because the chains were in your head. And we don't even need a whipping post. We're Catholic. We self-flagellate. Don't you get it, Dad? You came here, you couldn't vote, you couldn't be a citizen, you couldn't own land, you couldn't marry who you wanted. There was anti-miscegenation laws. If you even looked at a white woman, you'd be lynched, maybe murdered. And so you were a bachelor in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, and Mom came in the 50s, and oh yeah, there I was in the 50s. You guys got married, and I was born, and thank goodness we had the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship and Wong Kim Ark. Thank goodness I'm an American. But whenever people look at me, they see you, Dad. They see the immigrant. I've got to go to Harvard for us. I got to be an American immigrating to America, to Boston, to be an American Filipino. Don't you get it, Dad? That's the way it is. And so he said, yeah, go. Now, I was very sensitive to the idea of affirmative action. Affirmative action, I mean, there was a thing then, and I asked Harvard, hey, look, I'm not an affirmative action admin, am I? And they said, oh, no, Emil, no, look at what you overcame. And I said, oh, yeah, of course. I don't deserve a scholarship. I deserve reparations. So I'm at Harvard. It's cold. I'm walking around like this all the time. My clothes are too thin. It's cold. And I'm in the same class as, an adjacent class to RFK Jr., the HHS secretary. And I knew all about class differences back then. He had better drugs than I did. And also no vaccines even then. Really, I was in the same class as this guy Gates, Bill Gates. He dropped out. I graduated. So I guess I showed him, yeah. I was a member of the Lampoon. I gave the funny speech. I was a class clown. Oh, that's great. The punchline is, I didn't go into comedy. I went into journalism. The setup, not the punch. But I wanted whatever I had to be my kids, right? I understood the legacy of my affirmative action, of my being there. And I wanted my kids to have this someday. Fast forward 13, 14 years. My wife and I, we have 3 kids, 2 beautiful daughters, not interested in Harvard. My son was like Superman. He was a superhero. He was diagnosed with dyslexia. In 3rd grade, they wrote him off, said he'd never amount to anything. He couldn't read. Everything was backwards with him. Everything was upside down. He had dyslexia. Don't even bother. We bothered. We got him the help he needed. And by senior year in high school, he was getting straight A's. In an international baccalaureate program, he was qualified to go to Harvard. So I asked him, son, do you want to be Harvard man? And he said, I don't know, Dad, maybe Harvard trans? Harvard trans. This is something to go amok about. I tried hard not to. I had a feeling. I mean, I walked by his room sometimes in the hallway. I saw him dancing one night to Lady Gaga's Born This Way, a little too exuberantly. So I had the clues. I remember senior year, Potter Pro football. He really liked to play that game. But me, I was wondering, maybe it was something, was it me? Did I not go to enough football games with him? Was I not manly enough? I remember, look, I had a pretty decent career. I made it to NPR, was the first Filipino to host a national news program. The first Asian American male to host a national news program. Of course, the first Asian American would be Connie Chung. So I guess that would make me the male Connie Chung. Now, is there more to that joke? I don't know. I don't think so. But at the time, Dustin Hoffman was in that movie called Tootsie, where he dresses up as a woman to become a soap star. And I thought, oh, maybe I can transpose this to broadcast news and be the anchor of the 5 AM news in San Francisco, maybe too soon, maybe. I thought it, maybe I was drunk, I didn't act on it, I thought it. But this is not about me. This is about my son who wants to be my daughter. And I consulted with my guru. I have a meditation coach. He said, relax and release, let it go, Emil. It was the best advice I had. I relaxed, I released, I let it go. My son applied to Harvard and was rejected. But my son also applied to Cal Berkeley and was accepted, of course, at Cal Berkeley, where he could live in the Oscar Wilde co-ops, of course, and where he could maybe find herself, which she did. And that was our life. We just kept at a distance, and then it was my turn. And a few years later, she gives me a call. Dad, I'm gonna get the operation. The opera. Oh, relax, Dad. I'm gonna, the face. I want my face to be more feminine. I said, look, you're already Filipino. Isn't that feminine enough? No, Dad, they do it at Kaiser. They do it, it's covered by insurance. 2 weeks later, we're at Kaiser. My wife's wheeling him down to the car. She's all bandaged up. And I say, hey, look, you're the invisible man. Oh, Dad just misgendered me. He called me a monster. It's a joke. I used to be the film critic at Channel 4, yeah. We take her home and we give her the pudding and popsicles, the pre-op menu, and we nurse her for about 5 days. And then we take the bandages off one by one. They come off, and she is beautiful. Of course, I'm half Filipino, half white, just like Olivia Rodrigo. You are my daughter. I am your daughter. We take the face out for some fresh air around the block, and we live in this neighborhood that is kind of Trumpy, and there's Trump signs, and there's neighbors who are more like strangers, and they look at us. And I look back at them, and I grab my daughter's arm, and I think about this Filipino trans woman, Jennifer Laude, who in 2014 was found dead in a hotel, her head stuffed into a toilet. She was dating a Marine in the Philippines. They convicted him. He served time. He was pardoned by Rodrigo Duterte and then released back in the U.S. I think about her, and I grab my daughter's arm and say, I don't want to fight against you. I want to fight with you and for you. You're not still mad about Harvard, man? Oh, no. There's enough Harvard in the family to go around. Your grandfather and I were different, and we paid a price. And now it's your turn. You're the legacy that matters. We continue our walk. And she says to me, Dad, do you remember that time you picked me up after the birthday party, 9 years old, and you were wondering where I was? And they said, oh, he's back with the girls. And you were so happy because I was with the girls. Yes, I thought you were with the girls. And then you saw when you entered the room, they were putting on lipstick and makeup on me. And I thought they were bullying you. I thought they were forcing you to do that. No, Dad, I wanted that. That was me. I know that now. We continued our walk, and I held her arm close as we walked home with that sense of unconditional love. My conversion therapy complete as a better dad as we walked together to face the new world. Thank you for listening tonight.
Emil Guillermo, everyone.
I know everyone is QR code crazy, so I couldn't go away without one. I had an old picture of me from 1989 that used to hang in the lobby at NPR. But we have a QR code. You can contact me, and also I do the PETA podcast, and I'm vegan. I talk about that, and I do a thing called the Meal Amongst Takeout on YouTube. Thank you very much. Hope to be in contact with you soon.
And just so you know, Emil is one of our veteran AAJA members. We are so glad to have him back here. Well, now from parents and parenting to grandparents. Asian cultures are often known for the respect that societies pay to our elders in the community, and also the importance of taking care of them and learning from the wisdom that they have, their lived experience. Tonight, we have Juliana Yamada, who is explaining how stories about her own grandmother led her to spend some time with Asian seniors in the East Bay at the nonprofit JSay. And Juliana is a photographer with Japanese American heritage at the LA Times, and she is sharing the experience through her hella Asian lens.
Thank you, Jana. So growing up, I didn't really know my grandparents. My mom and my dad married when they were in their 40s, and by the time I was born, only my dad's parents were left. They both passed away by the time I was 5 years old. Their story became part of my family history. In 1942, my dad's parents were incarcerated alongside 120,000 other Japanese Americans after Executive Order 9066 was issued, which allowed the federal government to forcibly relocate those deemed a threat to national security during World War II. My grandmother, Suna Sasaki, and my grandfather, Joichi Yamada, met at Manzanar, a concentration camp in Inyo County, about 300 miles east of San Francisco. They married quickly and started a family. My dad, the youngest of four, was born in Los Angeles after they were released from the camps. They divorced when my dad was about 8, leaving my grandmother as a single mom. Life wasn't easy for her. The trauma of family separation, incarceration, and anti-Japanese discrimination took a toll. She worked in a sewing factory, earning 7 cents for each zipper she made. According to my family, she shut people out. She was afraid to be openly Japanese, but never really embraced American culture either. Growing up, I didn't really know these details, and I always struggled to understand her or the secondhand stories my family would tell. When I went to college, I decided to dive deep into Asian American studies. As a person of mixed ethnicity, I wanted a deeper understanding of who I was. It was there I found the Japanese American community that I'm still part of today. This journey naturally led me back to my family and its history. I knew what they had gone through in World War II, but those were just paragraphs in a history book. I didn't know much about them. All I had, really, was a photo of my grandmother and me in her Japanese American senior care facility called Cairo in Gardena, California. I started shifting through boxes of documents and photos that my aunt had stacked away, and I found the eulogy that she gave at my grandmother's funeral. It filled in some blanks in her biography, but it also explained her inner turmoil. My aunt said, she gave up on learning English and used her ignorance as armor to protect herself from further hurt in a harsh world. During the last 3 years of her life, she lived at Cairo Intermediate Care Facility after suffering a stroke. There, she was served Japanese food and participated in structured activities such as exercise and crafts. She learned that it was okay to clap her hands and sway her body to music and color pages with crayon. She had finally learned to open her hand and accept the acts of kindness and love that were offered by the staff. I was taken aback. I had no idea Cairo, this senior care facility, was so transformative for her. It might have finally been the place where she was happy. I wondered if there were other care facilities still out there for Japanese Americans, seniors serving the same purpose. In 2023, I found JSay Home. This is JSay Home, a small residential care facility in Hayward, specifically focused on Japanese American elders. The building has Japanese fixtures, the imported roof, the lights, the garden. It looks like a real home. I began to spend time with the residents at JSay Home in October 2023, and photograph their daily life soon after. Over the next year, I would sit and watch old Japanese music videos on TV, play bingo, and sing karaoke with them. The place had a family feeling. The caregivers were affectionate and kind and spoke Japanese phrases even if it wasn't their native language. They would bring their own children around, who made all of the residents smile. The seniors ate their familiar cultural food, white rice, miso soup, and pickled vegetables like takuan or daikon. I spent holidays with them, New Year's Day, or Oshogatsu in Japanese, Valentine's Day, Christmas, and more. Whenever I left for the day, I would tell each resident goodbye. A 93-year-old resident, Sawako-san, would tell me, "Kiosukete ne." This means take care. I would repeat this phrase to the others, and it became a tradition. Here are a few of the women that I met and what I remember most about them. Ruth Fukuchi preferred to flip through magazines and watch Giants games on her own small TV set or on her daughter Kathy's iPhone. I would always tell her I was happy to see her, and she would tell me she was happy to see me too. Well, usually. Kazue Granich was one of the best singers at Jeisei Home, and her karaoke repertoire included songs like You Are My Sunshine and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Kazue, at 100 years old, favored singing over talking. She sparkled when she sang. Grace Aikawa was one of the newest arrivals at Jeisei Home. She moved in a few months after I started coming. Grace quickly became friends with her next-door neighbor, Emiko. They would walk the courtyard together after every meal. They found a family of stray cats and would sneak them bits of kibble or fish from their own meals. This constructed family of women, many of whom lost their spouses or family members, made sense. They cared for one another deeply, making bingo moves for their neighbors and pulling up each other's blankets on a cold day. The caregivers were an integral part of this family, too. They were always enthusiastic and supportive, no matter what type of day it was for each resident, and some were hard. Bearing witness to this kind of tender care made me learn more about my own grandmother and how an environment like this helped her. But last October, I was told that Jeisei Home was going to close down in March 2025 due to financial instability. What I had been formulating as a story meant to celebrate a community just flipped. I was instead documenting a deeper loss and the question of what might still endure through it. From October until December, everyone at Jeisei Home navigated the difficult task of moving. They visited other facilities, called placement specialists, and booked moving companies. Dozens of care facility representatives cycled in and out to assess the residents. And one by one, they left. Jeisei Home's final annual holiday party had a bittersweet feeling. Grace and Emiko returned from where they moved to. Families of former residents brought sushi trays, and children played games. Speeches were made, and we all tried our best not to cry. I remember how happy Kazue was. Her children were there, and she was excitedly talking about going to the car and traveling. I had really never seen her so animated. But the next day, she would move from Jeisei Home after 7 years. Her new home is in El Cerrito, another small facility. She has new housemates and new caregivers. She eats Japanese food sometimes, but more American food now. And she turned 101 on Christmas Day. Grace moved out a few days before the holiday party. She and her next-door neighbor, Emiko, became neighbors again at their new home in Castro Valley. They don't get to feed their cat family anymore, but they split sandwiches in the dining hall and continue their walks. But Ruth never left. In the months after the closure announcement, she was eating less and sleeping more. She noticed the growing absence of her former housemates and friends. The family's getting smaller, she told her daughter. On Christmas Day, I visited Ruth. She was propped up in bed, eating her favorite foods, a beef donburi, or rice bowl, and crispy rice nori arare crackers. The donburi was Ruth's own recipe, her daughter Kathy said. She looked tired. She passed away on December 29th, 2024. At her memorial service in January, friends and family came together at Sycamore Congregational Church in El Cerrito. As Ruth's son Matt made closing remarks to the crowd, he thanked J.C. Home for taking care of his mom during her final years. J.C. Home closed its doors for good in January, 2 months ahead of schedule. I went back after it closed. The front door was locked, but I could see the row of empty recliners in the dark living room. Newspapers from the past days were strewn on the ground. I saw 2 of the stray kittens, now almost all grown up. There was nobody belting karaoke and no America's Got Talent playing on TV. I thought about what makes a home and what this place represented for the residents and their families. I thought about what it meant that the staff loved the residents as if they were family. It comforts me to think that's what my grandmother received in her later years. It comforts me that she was able to laugh with friends, let go of the pressure that she squeezed inside herself, and appreciate who she was without shame. There's a lot that I will never know or understand about her, but I feel closer to her now. My aunt ended the eulogy with these words: "Rest well, mother, oyasumi nasai." In Japanese, that doesn't mean goodbye, but good night, or literally, please have a good rest. My aunt said that my grandmother's first 12 years and last 12 years of her life were probably her happiest. She was surrounded by her family and Japanese culture as a child and accepted that culture once again as a senior. In the end, she was finally able to rest. So much is often made about the end of something, but I learned that it often sets the stage for a new beginning. So, as I say to some of my closest Japanese friends, oyasumi nasai. Thank you.
Beautiful. Juliana Yamada, everyone. So touching. Well, we all know that growing up can have its challenges, and there's no magic recipe for how to raise children. KQED's food editor, Luke Tsai, is our next storyteller, and he is leaving the table talk aside and instead is going to be sharing his stories of what it's like to be a father. Everyone, KQED's food editor, Luke Tsai.
I never expected that I would become a sports dad. Or maybe it's more accurate to say that I gave up on the idea a long time ago. The gods bestowed my wife and me with 2 smart, lovely girls of only moderate hand-eye coordination. They're more inclined to hide away in their room for hours with a Rubik's Cube or a stack of comic books than engage me in a game of catch. When my older daughter, Zoe, was in preschool, she played soccer just once before swearing off team sports for good. And my youngest, Ingrid, bless her heart, is about to take the early beginner swim class for something like the 17th time. She'll probably take it an 18th time too. In other words, they're very much their father's daughters. So I wasn't quite prepared this past fall when Zoe, who's 13 now, decided to sign up for skateboard lessons. And then Ingrid, who's 8, tried out for, and made the youth climbing team at the local bouldering gym. Suddenly, I joined the ranks of all the other soccer moms and gymnastics dads, shuttling the kids to endless weekend and after-school practices, buying high-protein granola bars in bulk, filming little cell phone videos from the sidelines to share in the family group chat, shouting inanities like, "If you aren't falling down all the time, you're probably not trying hard enough." Hearing me talk about all this, a friend asked, "When did you become such a tiger parent?" About 6 months ago, apparently. The thing no one ever tells you about sports dating, though, is that sometimes you actually have to participate in said sports yourself. By now, I'd given my daughters so many lectures about the importance of taking risks and trying new things that it only seemed right for me to swallow a dose of my own medicine. And so, during one of our early skate park outings, my teen taught me how to jump onto the board with both feet. And then, on totally flat ground, I managed to balance myself for about 3 seconds before the skateboard kicked out from under me and sent me tumbling to the concrete. And that was that. I know the limits of middle age. I'm not trying to end up in the hospital with a shattered hip. At least at the bouldering gym, you fall on a padded mat. So now, monthly father-daughter climbing sessions have become part of our routine. I never tried rock climbing when I was young and reasonably fit, but I'd always thought of it as a sport for thin, outdoorsy types who were incredibly lithe of limb. And I am not that. These past months, I've often stood in front of even the simplest boulder problems, which is what they call the color-coded climbing routes, with a mixture of terror and sheer hilarity. What do you mean I have to contort my arms and legs into that ungodly position? Just whoomst exactly do you think I am? I have become intimately familiar with the way gravity hits different in your mid-40s, with all of the unlikely angles at which this old and heavy, half-decrepit body of mine can come crashing down onto the mat. Or, in my prouder moments, the way I wheeze my way up to the top, forearms burning, only to spend the next 2 days bedridden with a thrown-out back. Of course, all of this is the source of much merriment for the 8-year-old who has taken to the sport like she was born to do it, light as air as she tip-taps her feet from boulder to boulder, or on the steepest angled walls, hangs upside down like Spider-Man for longer than seems possible. On the way to practice each Monday afternoon, she is as excited as she ever gets, with her little monkey-shaped chalk bag strapped over her shoulder, her pink unicorn water bottle filled to the brim. She is ready to climb. Which isn't necessarily to say it's come easily for her. At all of 3'9" tall, Ingrid is by far the littlest member of the team, which means sometimes she simply can't reach the starting handholds. not even with a running start. She's also always been the most cautious one in our family of careful rule followers, wary of new people and new experiences, occasionally prone to worrying herself to tears over school projects a full week before they're due. You'll have to forgive me then for the way I teared up when one of her coaches pulled me aside a couple months in and told me how much he'd enjoyed having Ingrid on the team, how she was a very careful and deliberate climber and also very, very brave. Her sweet, exuberant coaches who have Ingrid doing multiple sets of burpees and ab crunches and who are also so incredibly gentle with her, kneeling down to face level to give her beta, which is climber speak for strategic advice on tough boulder problems, who've helped cultivate this new, daring side of her I never knew existed, which is maybe what being a sports dad is all about. In November, we drove up to Santa Rosa for Ingrid's first formal climbing competition, and I watched as she tried to ascend a particularly tricky wall. The handholds were set maybe just an inch too far apart for someone her height to reach. Still, she scrambled up, and I almost started to cry again when I heard this booming chorus of voices, her coaches and her older teammates shouting, "Come on, Ingrid, you've got this. You've got this. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep going. Just a little bit higher. Just a little bit higher. Yes. Yes. You're almost there." Call it the peak of sports daddom. All I could do in that moment, with my heart in my throat, was join in. Thank you.
Oh, and I understand Luke just said one of his daughters is here. So here's to family and perseverance and that wonderful parental love. Well, this brings us to the end of our program, and we hope that you have enjoyed a hella Asian journey tonight. Yes? Some thank yous to everyone here at KQED Commons and those of you who are joining us from home on the live stream. Thank you so much for your support tonight. All of the funds, as I mentioned, raised will go towards AJA, San Francisco Bay Area chapter, scholarships, and all of the workshops and the stipends and all of the grants that we try and do. We'd also like to thank all of the KQED Live team we have backstage and also up there. Executive Director Ryan Davis, Senior Producer Yohan Martinez, Producer Cecilia Lay, who also we mentioned is the past president of our chapter, and all of the KQED's technical and event crew members. We are so grateful to all of you. Thank you again to our major sponsor, Comcast. We always appreciate the support that you show us, and we understand that they have a little gift for everyone who is here, a phone charger that you can take with you, so please pick one up on your way out. And if you took some photos, once you get that phone charged up, please hashtag us Hella Asian. We would love to see some of the photos that you took. Yes, thank you. We also want to say a big thank you to our food partners. Again, Oaks Deli, Oaken, Noria Wines, Matchpoint Brewery, and also Bake Some, which has some sweet treats for us outside. And there's more food. And again, our gratitude to Yuji Ishikata, chef from the J-State community that you heard about there. He is their chef in Emeryville, and he coordinated tonight's food. So thanks so much to him as well. And we also want to let you know, as I mentioned, this is our 40th anniversary, so we hope that you will keep this connection going. You can always find us on aajasf.org. We're going to be having other programs through the year, and we do hope that you'll join us. And also, we want to mention, if you like the KQED Live event and the events that KQED puts on, they're going to be having a very special KQED event. Many of you might know Alexis Madrigal, who is the host of KQED's Forum. He has a book and a launch party coming out for Globalization in the Soul of Oakland. He is going to be promoting his book called The Pacific Circuit. It's coming up on March 27th, so if you're able to go, that starts at 7 p.m. He'll be at Block 15 in Oakland's Jack London Square talking about the human effects of technology and globalization at the Port of Oakland. So fascinating. They'll have a post-talk party with a DJ and drinks. So we hope that you'll join them at March 27th. That is a big wrap for us. Our post-show party begins outside. Thank you all so much for joining us with Hella Asian 2025, Bridging the Bay. Thank you.